wife. The customer service representative told him he needed his wife to get a physical clearance from a doctor before they could stop the billing. Did a doctor put her on this? Bob yelled into the phone. No, you did. You took her money, and you're hurting our marriage. The arguments at the Price household were exactly what Stephen Warshak was counting on. He wanted people to be too tired, too angry, and too embarrassed to fight back. He thought he was untouchable. He was wrong. Chapter 5. The 7 Tons of Truth. March 16, 2005. The morning air was crisp as 50 federal agents, a coalition of the FBI, IRS, Postal Inspection Service, and the FDA converged on the Berkeley Premium Nutraceuticals headquarters. They didn't come with questions. They came with boxes. Stephen Warshak watched from his glass-walled office as the world he had built was dismantled in real time. Agents hauled away 13,500 documents. They seized 24 laptops and enough hard drives to fill a small warehouse. In total, they removed 7 tons of evidence. The indictment was a 112-count sledgehammer. Fraud, money laundering, conspiracy. The trial in 2008 was less of a legal proceeding and more of an autopsy. The prosecution didn't need to argue about the effectiveness of the pills. They just had to show the emails. The student has become the teacher. Warshak had written to his nephew, Jason Kosman, after Jason suggested a scheme to call canceled customers pretending to be a hospital offering a better deal. Our company was built on this kind of creative thinking. The jury didn't see a go-getter entrepreneur. They saw a predator. When Judge Arthur Spiegel handed down the sentence, the room was silent. Stephen Warshak, the man who had turned a basement operation into a $250 million empire, was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. He was ordered to forfeit nearly $500 million. The Smiling Bob theme song finally stopped playing. But as one empire fell in Cincinnati, another was reaching its terminal velocity in the glittering skyline of Atlanta. Book 2, The End Zone of Despair. Chapter 6, The Harvard Hustle. Kirk Wright was a man of impeccable pedigree. In a world of new money, Kirk looked like old money in the making. He was polished, articulate, and possessed a master's degree from Harvard, the ultimate gold seal of American meritocracy. But Kirk's journey hadn't started in the ivy-covered halls of Cambridge. It started in the Bronx, with a car accident and a settlement. That settlement was his first taste of capital, his first realization that money could grow if you knew how to speak its language. In the late 90s, Kirk moved to Atlanta. At the time, Atlanta was the southern boomtown, a mecca for young black professionals. There was a cultural comfort, a sense of limitless opportunity, and a desperate need for financial leadership that understood the specific aspiration of this new elite. Kirk formed International Management Associates (IMA). He didn't just want investors, he wanted clients. He wanted the people who were too busy being successful to watch their own bank accounts. He found his perfect targets in the NFL. Chapter 7, The Locker Room Pipeline. Steve Atwater was a legend, a defensive star for the Denver Broncos, a man of iron and grit. But when the cheering stops and the cleats are hung up, many NFL players find themselves in a terrifying vacuum. They have millions of dollars and 40 years of life left to live, with no idea how to bridge the gap. Kirk Wright stepped into that vacuum with the grace of a savior. Most managers want to give you a 5% return and charge you 2% for the privilege. Kirk told a group of retired players in a private suite, "I'm not looking for safe. I'm looking for legacy. My Taurus fund uses proprietary algorithms to beat the market while everyone else is sleeping." He showed them statements: 20% annual returns, 30% growth. It was astronomical. It was unbelievable. But Steve Atwater believed. He invested his own money. Then he did something even more valuable. He brought his friends. He brought the locker room. Kirk Wright's fund grew to $84 million, then $150 million. He was the toast of Atlanta. He drove a Lamborghini, a Bentley, and an Aston Martin. He lived in a mansion with marble floors and gold fixtures. He was the living embodiment of the secret recipe for success. But like Stephen Warshak, Kirk had a secret of his own. The proprietary algorithm was a lie. There were no trades. There were no gains. There was only a template he had downloaded from the internet, a fake statement form that he filled out with whatever numbers would keep the players happy. Chapter 8, The Wedding at the End of the World. By 2005, the walls were closing in. An accountant at EMA had uncovered a 24% loss while Kirk was reporting a 3% gain. The staff was demanding to see the actual brokerage accounts. The SEC was sniffing around. Most men would have fled. Kirk Wright threw a wedding. It was an event that Atlanta would talk about for years. 3 bars carved out of solid ice. Champagne that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Lobster, sushi, and a level of opulence that bordered on the psychotic. Kirk stood at the center of the ballroom, his second wife on his arm, smiling at the very people he was robbing. He spent $500,000 on that single night money that belonged to retired players who were counting on their investments to pay for their children's college tuitions and their own medical bills. It was the last dance of a desperate man. Chapter 9, The Ritz-Carlton Standoff. When the FBI finally raided the EMA offices in February 2006, they found plenty of expensive furniture, but almost no money. Of the $150 million that was supposed to be under management, less than $2 million remained. Kirk Wright had vanished. For 3 months, he played a cat-and-mouse game with federal authorities. He called reporters from throwaway cell phones, claiming he wasn't a fugitive, just a man concerned for his safety. He claimed the NFL players were threatening him. The truth was found on South Beach. Agents tracked him to the Ritz-Carlton. They didn't find him in a bunker or a basement. They found him lounging by the pool, soaking up